Alright guys, welcome back to another Dokkan Battle discussion video, and today we're going to be talking about my top 5 for things that keep a card in the meta in today's Dokkan Battle. If you're unaware, basically all throughout Dokkan there's been different tiers of metas and it's kind of increased as the game has gone along. So I'm going to talk about things that have kept cards in the meta longer than they probably either should have or just kept them going, into the next meta, etc, etc. These ones are in no particular order, but feel free to let me know extra things that I didn't mention down in the comments down below, where I'll be joining you guys and I'll be pinning some of my favorite answers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first one, which is going to be probably the more obvious one. Something that'll keep you in the meta is going to be attack percent up passives. So usually what keeps a card the most meta in Dokkan is all about the damage output. So it's no shock that percent damage passives, and that means passives that increase the attack stat in particular, allow a unit to hit hard into more metas. The higher that percent is, the longer they will be able to stay in the meta, more or less. So cards like Full Power Frieza were getting the high 120% passives before they were even popular. He was one of the first ones to get an attack up 120%, and is for that reason, and a couple others that I'll mention, that Frieza has been able to stay at the top of the game for so long. Frieza is actually going to be the example for a lot of these, because Frieza has survived the longest into any meta that any character has. This Full Power Frieza has been top tier in almost every meta he's been a part of, and I'm going to list off a couple of reasons because of that. I'll try to also bring up some other instances, obviously. So cards like Full Power Frieza, Seal Tanks, which does 100% up on a super attack, stuff like that, allow a unit to outlive their usefulness or intended usefulness from their original creation, essentially. Jumping into step 2, and something I love that Bandai did, because it allows for units that formerly couldn't be competitive to be competitive either for the first time or competitive again, because some units were released just out the gate just being absolutely terrible. So some units that I think become better through this is going to be with easy A's. Extreme Z Awakenings are something that give a character a potential to be far greater than they were ever designed to be. And what I mean by that is this Piccolo coming up. Obviously we're going to get a Extreme Z Awakening for him. Extreme Z Awakening, since they reform passives and leader skills, although leader skills don't really get that much of a buff, passive skills usually end up becoming phenomenally better. And I think the best example of this is going to be the Tech Cell. So Cell is he's not a bad unit to begin with. He was one of the original nuker units. Not a bad card by any means. Attack and defense up 12% for every key sphere obtained. This was godly when he first came out. The man could block anything. And now with the Easy A coming up, he'll get improvements to his overall stats as well as his nuking passive to make him a viable unit on every Extreme Tech team. And it'll allow the game to breathe new life into a card that hasn't really gotten the opportunity to in a long time. So I think Extreme Z Awakenings are incredibly helpful, incredibly free-to-play friendly, because they allow for people with even the older cruddy units to get something very meta and very up there in power. So the creation of Extreme Z Awakenings I was a huge fan of, because I thought that did an amazing job, especially the free-to-play Easy A's like Gohan, because we get some phenomenal units out of those events nonetheless. The next one is going to be gimmicks. I'm glad I'm on this page, because I think the poster boy for gimmicks is going to be Janemba, at least the strength one. I think built-in dodges capture this one especially. I think a gimmick should be kind of defined as a trait mostly unique to that character, outside of maybe a few examples, that can allow a unit to still be good, but they don't trigger all the time and aren't necessarily reliable. So Janemba could be used as a great wall/dodge unit, despite it not always triggering and not always going off. Another unit at the time of his release was Janemba with his or did I say Janemba? Ultimate Gohan Majin Buu, with his HP recovery passive, which was unique to him at the time. Obviously, it's a little outdated now. I'd like to refer to the gimmick of countering supers with the SS4 Goku, Vegeta, and Gogeta more so. Little gimmicks like that can keep a character in the meta, and usually for about 2 to 3 metas forward, and then usually gets outdated by something of a similar gimmick, and that's just been updated and is better to some extent, or the card's just better and the gimmick's the same. The SS4 Vegeta and Goku I would kind of use as the example for SS4 Gogeta kind of coming in and doing the same thing but better. Obviously he didn't replace them necessarily, but that's just kind of the updated gimmick type deal that I want to bring up. Because the counter rate for Gogeta is so much better that you would never rely on the S4 Goku and Vegeta for their counter. One thing, and then again I'll refer this point back to Full Power Frieza because I think he's the best example, is no really new versions of a card can keep a card in the meta. So what I mean by that is, how many Full Power Friezas do you have in the game? Like maybe 2 if we're counting JP. And even then, that Full Power Frieza is absolutely terrible. But this Full Power Frieza hasn't really had a new iteration, and I think a lot of that stems from the fact that since he got an easy A, it'd be hard to put out another card that would actually outdate this card. Like any new card that comes out after this would have to be better, and I think they realized that they made him way too powerful in the beginning, that that's just not a possibility. So the fact that Full Power Frieza hasn't necessarily had a better version of a Full Power Frieza card come and outdate him is kind of what's kept him. On the reverse side of that, I would say Tech Gotenks only got slightly outdated because the Fizz Gotenks came along, for example. So things like that where they create a similar card but newer. I think the Int Gogeta to the Strength Gogeta will immediately outdate the other card and make it useless on most teams, because why would you use it when you have the better version, right? The last thing that I think, and this might come across as kind of underrated in my opinion, but good links can keep a card heavily in the meta. Now, with the Dokkan Awakening of some cards, they add links that make them crucial to some teams that they wouldn't have been good on otherwise. Without certain links, especially key links, I think are most important, units can get new life again. A good example of this would be the Dokkan version of this card. I'd reverse Dokkaned him to up his special. But ignoring that, the SS God Goku has seen a lot of new life on the Realm of Gods team, especially strictly because his links are phenomenal. They work with everyone on the team essentially. And this card I don't think would have had much life otherwise. I think if his links were slightly worse or he didn't have as many key links, he wouldn't find a spot on that team. And I think that applies to a couple of cards, but I think SS God Goku kind of symbolizes the majority of that. But anyway guys, that has been me ranting for a little bit. If you want, I'll do a part 2, or if you want to check it out I should say, I'm going to do it regardless. There's going to be a part 2 with this thumbnail up tomorrow for top 5 things that will basically kick a card out of the meta. So kind of the reverse end of this on the other side. Let me know what you guys think of my my top 5 and what you guys want to add onto it. Open to suggestions. As always, I've been your host, Luke Man. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Why even try, right? Have a good day, guys.